Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji ayanu, Pukhairagale, Ni hao, Chunushumme, Washmale, Ohio Gonzaimas, Guten Morgen, Hola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifahal, Hale Shuma Chatore, Ahlan Wasal, Marhaba, Buna, Mucho Gracias, Swabio, Balli Kreaya, Hosh Galden and I, Sayo, Huya Mora, Chivato, Chihal, Yud, Kalimera, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Hajra Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your Wednesday morning with us. But first things first, hello Hajra, Assalamu Alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum Assalam, Jazakallah Khair. Thank you so much. Since the monsoon has started and it is continuously raining, especially at the night. So I think the weather has turned a little bit pleasant.
Yeah.
Of course, you can feel the humidity in the air, especially when the air stops, and you can certainly feel a burst of sweating and perspiration all around you. But having said so, I think weather has turned nicer. And this is one of the best things living in Islamabad and Rawalpindi is that whenever you experience a very scorching heat, after 3 or 4 days, you get the rain here because there's Rawal Lake here, and you get to experience a more milder weather. But as of now, we cannot say the same because obviously of the climate change, the weather patterns are changing. There are a lot of abnormalities surrounding it regarding that. So Shahzad, yesterday we were talking about Gilgit-Baltistan and how their indigenous communities,
Polo Festival.
Yes, and how they have their own traditions and customs of naming the rivers and then getting them married. Yes.
Yeah.
And then obviously the marriage give birth to a new glaciers, and they own a lot, right? So since you've been to that particular area, so if you were to advise someone to go to that area, what will be your advice?
I think, if you're planning to go to that area, first of all, you really need to check that, that you're not going in the monsoon season because of the fact that imagine that, while we were traveling, even though there wasn't any rain, but there was still landsliding, so I think everybody really needs to be careful in making sure while they're planning to go. And I would rather, what I would suggest it, because the fuel prices have gone up so high that, it's best that you actually go by plane, to Gilgit, and from Gilgit, you kind of go to Hunza as well. I think that's a more safer trip, because I still remember that I had to kind of drive. So first day from Islamabad, ladies and gentlemen, we drove to Batakundi, and then the next day, we stayed over there, and then next day, from Batakundi to Hunza. So it was probably somewhat around 20 hours drive. And so if you're a good driver and you can protect your family while you're traveling, I think it's best, because a lot of people with cars and everything, how they're not so organized,
and especially the driving in the hilly areas is very, very different from driving in the plains, because a lot of people who are driving in the more plain areas don't know how to drive in the mountains.
True.
We see there were a lot of accidents because of that very rash driving and not very careful driving in the first place.
Exactly.
Right?
So most of the time these accidents do occur, but I think I would recommend that if you're actually going to kind of travel by road, please make sure that you check your tires, brakes and your engines. They really need to be powerful, because it's like a steep climb for anybody out there, and you certainly need to be kind of more aware of the when you're coming downwards as well. So because you want this deaccelerator to be there, which obviously in manual gears, you really need to drive in lower gears, and if it's an automatic, obviously you put it to L, which happens to be a low gear, so that that the RPMs will go higher and the engine will brake automatically.
And make sure that the brake doesn't, breaks off,
wear
right?
off, so you really need to make sure that all of these things are in place. And rest, obviously it's summer vacations, everybody is trying to travel. What we're going to do today is that we're going to give you a weather update, and then you can decide whether you should be going up north or not.
Right. So NDMA has issued obviously an advisory to all federal and provincial departments concerned to ensure preparedness for the first monsoon spell forecast from Monday till Saturday. The advisory report said heavy rainfall may cause urban flooding in low-lying areas of Islamabad, Rawalpindi, Peshawar, Gujranwala and Lahore from Tuesday to Friday. Heavy rainfall may trigger landslides in vulnerable areas of Murree, Galayat, Gilgit-Baltistan, Kashmir and hilly areas of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Heavy rainfall may cause flash flooding in the hill torrents of Dera Ghazi Khan and adjoining areas of northeast Balochistan also from Thursday to Saturday. And we were talking about this abnormality in the weather patterns and all of this discourse surrounding the climate change. And I think before the red lights of the camera hit on, we were also having this conversation about the cloud burst, which we never witnessed before, especially in Islamabad. And in particularly those areas which we consider very posh areas, right, like E11 and all of these areas.
Thank you. I live there. But obviously it's very unfortunate. And you know, the sole reason is that, you know, it's all because of the fact that people have been constructing their houses over places where they shouldn't have been constructing their houses in the first place. And number two, ladies and gentlemen, obviously, you know, the sole purpose of sharing this advisory with you was that because it's summer vacation, if you want to take your family elsewhere, please make sure that you consider it, because unfortunately getting trapped somewhere and then asking for help and then, you know, we certainly are not aware of how long it will take for the help to kind of reach to you. So it's better to be safe than sorry. But now moving on to this other perspective, Haja, where we've already spoken that how mutual cooperation amongst countries even within Asia, so you know, with neighboring countries and within Central Asia, we really need to kind of focus, because imagine that ever since we were growing up, we always studied that, you know, Pakistan is geographically located at a place where it's going to benefit all its neighbors. And that's one thing which we wanted to share with you today, because there's a good news for people out there, for people who wanted to travel to Kazakhstan but didn't really had a direct flight, because direct flight is something which will obviously easy. So imagine that you take off from Lahore and you land in Kazakhstan in just 2 hours now.
Or maybe from Islamabad, right? We're living in Islamabad.
You know, for times to come, because the good news as of now specifies that, you know, that is going to be from Lahore, and, you know, for people from Islamabad who need to travel to Lahore, it's only 4 hours drive, you know, if you're within the speed limit, and I would recommend please make sure that you stay within the speed limit as well. But it opens up more avenues, you know, in terms of economic avenues, in terms of education, in terms of
trade.
In terms of trade, in
economic
terms of
cooperation,
you know, gas, electricity, and all of these things, because Kazakhstan, ladies and gentlemen, happens to be the 9th largest country on this planet with 2.7 million square feet of land. And why are we talking about this? I think this news will actually give it away. So, Haja, why don't you do the honors?
Okay, so the ambassador of Kazakhstan, Yerzhan Kistafin, said that the direct air flights between Kazakhstan and Pakistan to start from July 8th. And he also added, while addressing the roundtable on the Kazakhstan and Pakistan bilateral ties and way forward, the ambassador said that direct air flight will increase the economic, social and cultural integration of both the countries, and maintain that the direct air flights between the two countries are very important for regional economic and trade integration between the both countries. And obviously, we've seen that it's not just about the trade. Obviously, it's also about the trade and economic cooperation between the both of the countries. But I think the element of spirituality also stands out, because Sufism developed in this region, right? And we in Pakistan have a very vibrant, especially when it was subcontinent, Sufi culture here, where people of all tribes or people of all religion used to flock to those darbars and those astanas and the waqf boards, which used to benefit people of all tribes, caste, ethnicities, religion and whatnot, right? So these are the things that I think allows us to have a deeper cooperation.
Exactly. And in addition to that, imagine that, you know, we are actually speaking of a country which obviously happens to be the 9th largest. Not just that, you know, there are a lot of tourist spots, tourist friendly places where people can actually go from Pakistan now directly in 2 hours. And that's what everybody is looking for. Imagine that, you know, we have a 2-hour flight, 1 hour 45-minute flight from Islamabad to Karachi. So if I am given the opportunity to go visit another country, I'll be like, okay, today I'm going to Kazakhstan, so I'll come back tomorrow. You know, it's just that ease. And in addition to that, imagine that for a country who's actually kind of gotten $28 billion of foreign direct investment in just recent year, I think that's something which we really need to kind of build upon, that whether how they did it and we can learn. And probably there might be so many things which we did, you know, as a country, and they can learn as well. You know, so it's all about mutual cooperation. Our Prime Minister Mia Mohammed Shahbaz Sharif Saab even spoke with the President of Kazakhstan just a week ago, and ladies and gentlemen, they actually discussed, you know, and not just that, Haja, the best part is that they have signed 35 memorandums of understanding, and a few of them have already been implemented. So I think that's the best part, that it's not just MOUs. And to talk further about it, I'm really excited. I'm sorry, I know my body language tells so as well, is because of the fact that we're very lucky that we actually have been joined by the ambassador of Kazakhstan over here in Pakistan, Islamabad. Ladies and gentlemen, he happens to be His Excellency Yerzhan Kistafin. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam. Great. Thank you so much for your invitation.
Thank you so much for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here. And to,
Khair Mubarak.
Khair Mubarak. And to, you know, get started, obviously it's a good news for everybody who's out there, because, you know, maybe Kazakhstan and other countries in Central Asia, people of Pakistan now want to travel outside as well, because people like me and Hajar, we have traveled inside Pakistan quite a lot, and we want to go explore the world. And we always believe that these days it's not just well educated or well read, but rather it's well traveled as well. So first of all, let's build up on that. You know, how did you conceive this idea that, okay, we really need to have direct flights? Then on Saturday, the first ever flight will take off from Lahore and to Kazakhstan. And how did it happen, and how will it benefit the people of Pakistan and Kazakhstan?
Well, in fact, when I joined our mission in your beautiful capital, Islamabad, 2 years ago, we identified two main issues that we need to address. The first one is lack of connectivity. We noticed that there is a great potential to develop cooperation between our two brother nations, but still we have this problem with our connectivity. Nowadays, if you want to travel to Kazakhstan, for example, you have to travel via Dubai or Istanbul, and stopover is more than 10 hours. Can you imagine?
Yes.
And from this week, from this Saturday, and then you will travel to Kazakhstan, and the flight duration is only 2 hours 10 minutes.
That's it.
As you rightly mentioned, it's almost equal
So I
to
can
the
go
distance.
in the morning, come back at night.
Yeah. So we will have flights twice a week, every Wednesday and every Saturday.
Wow.
So you are more than welcome to visit our country. And we do believe that with direct flights, we will be able to boost our bilateral cooperation. And again, as you rightly mentioned, when it comes to relations between Kazakhstan and Pakistan, it is not about only about economic or trade relations. It is much bigger and much deeper. It is about reviving brotherly relations between Kazakhstan and Pakistan. We have so many things that should unite us, and I think that if we join our hands, it will be beneficial not only for Kazakhstan and Pakistan, but for the entire region.
Yes,
Wow.
and we see there are a lot of influences of Central Asia in our culture. So, for example, Samarkand and Bukhara, there used to be a huge learning center, cultural center back in those days, and we can see the influences, especially in our customs, in our traditions, in our way of life, maybe on our culinary, the way we eat the food, stuff like that. But let's talk about more about the energy, the topic of the energy, because Pakistan is not a very energy rich country, and Kazakhstan is obviously a very energy diverse country, right? And obviously, do you imagine a corridor where we can export or import the energy to Pakistan, or maybe from Pakistan to other countries, because in South Asia is generally not very energy rich region in its
and
entirety.
just before you answer that, let's just complete the traveling bit of it as well. So, how do you think that people from Pakistan will be able to travel to Kazakhstan? Will they need a visa, or is visa on arrival, or is it an electronic visa? And then the tourist visa and business visas, how are we differentiating, and what are the prerequisites for anybody to travel to Kazakhstan, and what sort of documentations really need to be provided to the embassy in order for us to travel to Kazakhstan?
So let's start from the visa policy.
Yep.
For business people, we managed to facilitate visa regime, and nowadays, if any business people want to visit Kazakhstan to explore business opportunities, they just have to send a letter on my name saying that this is my company, this is my delegation, I want to travel to Kazakhstan, and within 3 days they will receive their visa.
Wonderful.
Wow, so just an application.
Yes, they need no invitation, nothing, just a letter plus an application. For tourists, last year, as you remember, we opened our honorary consulate in Karachi. In Lahore.
In Lahore, yeah.
In April, we opened for the first time our Kazakhstan house in Lahore. And Kazakhstan's house, it's a kind of single window solution. And they also have a visa facilitation center.
Right.
It means that people from Punjab, they don't have to travel to Islamabad.
Okay.
They can approach Kazakhstan house in Lahore, and they can, easily send their applications through this house. Next month, inshallah, or maybe in August, we are going to open our honorary consulate in Karachi.
Wonderful.
The same approach will be implemented in the financial center of your beautiful country. So we are trying to, to facilitate visa regime on gradual step by step.
Wow.
So I think that it will be very helpful.
It's not necessary that you can you have to go by person. You can email it, or you have to be there, in person present for the visa.
Nowadays, you have to be,
physically
present. Yeah, physically present.
Okay.
All right.
And yes.
That's wonderful. And in addition to that, so obviously, because in later, what Kazakhstan and Pakistan is planning is that there will be direct flights from Islamabad and Karachi as well. Yeah. So now, how far do you think that we are foreseeing that? Okay, probably, because it's July that we are speaking of it. So probably in August, September, October, November. When do you think that direct flights from Islamabad and Karachi will start, inshallah?
So the plan is the following. We, inshallah, are going to launch direct flights from Karachi to Almaty this fall.
Wonderful.
We'll see maybe in September, maybe in October. And if the passenger traffic is growing, if everything is going well, we are planning also to connect our capitals. But probably it will take place next year.
And that's exactly what I wanted to build up on. I'm very sorry that I'm putting Hajar's question on hold, because this is for the very first time, because I've interviewed a lot of ambassadors, alhamdulillah. And so this was for the very first time that I actually sat down with you, Your Excellency, and then you spoke about how cities should actually be connected with each other. And that's the kind of an idea which blew my mind. I was like, okay, yeah, that's such a wonderful experience for anybody, not just that, even if we speak about economy, because imagine that now we are focusing on provinces, now we are focusing on cities itself, and having bilateral relations with one city and then another city in another country. I think it's a beautiful idea. And how will it work?
So my idea was to be focused not only on the federal government, but also at the level of provinces.
Wonderful.
After all, everything is done at the regional level on the ground, right? So we want to start from your beautiful province of Punjab, Lahore. Our idea is to establish twinning cities relations between Lahore and Turkestan. Turkestan is our cultural, spiritual capital. We consider Turkestan as a cradle of nomadic Turkic civilization. Moreover, a mausoleum of Khaja Ahmed Yassawi, who was the founder of the very first Sufi order, is based in Turkestan. So we are planning to sign an MOU, inshallah, this August.
Wonderful.
We want to invite Commissioner of Lahore to visit Turkestan, to discuss possible prospects for developing cooperation between our two cities, our regional authorities. And it is not only about officials, it is also about business people. It is also about, for example, what we want to do. We want to develop cooperation between Lahore Museum, one of the biggest in South Asia, and museums of Kazakhstan. We think that this is kind of combination can help us to boost cooperation and to explore new avenues for developing interaction between our people.
And I would certainly want to appreciate it, because it's very rare that we come across such smart ideas, that because it's what it's going to do is that it's going to have an impact on our grassroots. So imagine if the bilateral relations we are speaking about is on that level where we're speaking of grassroots. I think that it will be embedded within the cultures, and people will have a vaster and a more alluding experience to how the cultures might probably be. So thank you. Kudos to that.
Yeah, but when we talk about experiencing the beauty, the culture, the civilizational value of the different countries, so Mr. Ambassador, since you are a resident of Kazakhstan, you've been born there, so if someone wants to go to, for example, Almaty, so for example, Shahzad or I wanted to go there, so what are the particular places that you would recommend us to go there, in particular, which have a good touristic value, be it religious, spiritual,
probably Caspian Sea.
Or maybe, why sea?
Yeah, just like
I mean, land is more worth visiting.
No. I think I would love to, because we have been reading about Caspian Sea all our lives. Why not go and see for yourself?
Read a lot of fiction, So, Mr. Ambassador.
So, if you go to Almaty, I would recommend to visit Medeo, our skating rink. It's one of the best. Then in Almaty we have Shimbulak Ski Resort. It's, I would say, the best in the region.
And the highest?
If you like skiing, it's one of the highest in the region. So in terms of facilities, in terms of infrastructure, we have one of the best conditions. Then in Almaty we have so-called Charin Canyon. It's very similar to Grand Canyon in the United States. To be honest with you, there are so many places to visit. So just to visit Almaty alone, I would recommend to spend, let's say, at least 1 week.
And which is your favorite food that you would recommend us to eat there?
In Almaty.
Yeah.
In Almaty, I would recommend to try bishparmak. This is our national food. Yes.
Right.
And what is it made of?
Meat, dough.
Okay,
Yes, mainly.
Meat and
dough.
Oh, okay. And does the spices matches our level of the spices that we eat here?
It's not as spicy as here.
But it's well done.
Yeah.
I think it's well done.
And then you can try samosa.
Samosa.
And of course, pulao.
Palau. Wow, that's wonderful. So, there's a lot of similarity even within the culture as well. And, she's already spoken about Sufis.
For example, you have paratha, right?
Yeah, paratha.
We have naan, and it's almost the same.
We also have naan here, right?
So, you certainly do not feel like as if you were away from home, right?
It's a bit spicy, but still.
Well, that's the best part.
I think
Yeah.
Islamabadi food is not that spicy as the Karachi food is,
Yeah.
because the spices are on next level. Even
Well,
we can't digest
Obviously,
it.
you know, with Karachi biryani, that's the most
Yeah,
authentic
yeah.
biryani. So if somebody's going to tell me that, you know, you get the best biryani in Lahore or in
Okay,
Islamabad,
why
you know,
do
I've
they
never-
say it's the best biryani? Because of the spices?
No, it's not just the spices, it's just the authentic taste of biryani. You know,
What is the
probably even
authentic
if it's nehari, you know, the
Okay.
authentic is, you know, there's going to be potatoes in it,
Okay.
then there's going to be imli in it as well, you
Okay,
know.
so we
and
have
then,
that in Islamabad too.
No, we don't have it, you know, because, you know, they refer to biryani as pulao, you know. So what you actually eat, when you eat
Yeah, I
pulao,
keep
you know,
hearing
that's
that,
the kind
yeah,
of a
yeah.
feeling you get, you know, if you get to order biryani over here. But sir, now coming back to
Yeah.
how, alhamdulillah, Kazakhstan was able to attract $28 billion of foreign investment. Not just that, over 3 decades, Kazakhstan has actually brought in $400 billion, and it speaks volume of the economy of Kazakhstan. And how do you think both the countries, on terms of mutual cooperation, can actually benefit from each other in terms of foreign direct investment, which we certainly face as a challenge as of now?
You know, in fact, one of the main goals for our government was to develop competitiveness in Kazakhstan. And according to the latest report published by the IMD institution, Kazakhstan last year was ranked as 37th in terms of competitiveness in the world. In terms of e-government, online services, last year we were ranked as 28th in the world among 180 countries. So we're doing quite well, and our government will be more than happy to share our experience. And probably this is the reason why we've been able to attract more than 400 billion US dollars within the last 3 decades.
True.
And this is more than 70% of
Right.
all FDIs attracted to the Central Asian region. Kazakhstan today represents a half of the Central Asian economy.
Right.
So this is why we do believe that we have some experience to share. But at the same time, on the other hand, we can learn a lot from Pakistan experience.
Right, right.
It is well known that Pakistan is in top 10 in terms of textile industry, one of the best pharmaceutical industry in the region. You know, surgical instruments, you are number one.
Best doctors.
Yeah, sports goods. So there are so many avenues for, you know, developing cooperation, for learning from each other. And I do believe that our cooperation should be as a kind of complementary cooperation.
Yes, yes.
Kazakhstan, again, everyone knows that Kazakhstan is the largest landlocked country in the world.
Right.
And through Pakistan, we can have access to the warm waters, and through your seaports, we can have access to the African markets as well as to the countries
Yes.
of Southeast Asia, the most populous regions today. And vice versa, Kazakhstan can serve as a regional hub for your country in terms of getting access to the Eurasian markets.
Exactly.
Kazakhstan is blessed with energy resources,
That's
and
true.
you need energy, as you rightly mentioned.
That's true.
In fact, in 2020, during our 9th session of the Intergovernmental Joint Commission, it was decided to establish 3 joint working groups. Joint working group on energy, on
Right.
transport, and on trade and investment.
Okay, wonderful.
So Dr. Musaddiq Malik, who is
Yeah.
State Minister for Petroleum,
Yes.
visited our country twice.
Wonderful.
So now we are in talks, and it seems to me that within the next few years, we will find a solution to developing cooperation between our countries in
Wonderful.
energy, because it is also important for us.
True.
Like Mr. Ambassador, like you mentioned that Kazakhstan is a member of Eurasian organization, and I believe you also, both of our countries, are member of SCO, right? So let's talk about developing the regional cooperation, and especially when we talk about the bonds that unites us in terms of our religion, the Islamic. How can we as a Ummah strengthen our voice when we talk about Pakistan, when we talk about Kazakhstan? Because obviously our Ummah is facing a lot of challenges in a modern day 21st century, right? We see general and moral degradation all over the world, right? So how can we have a more united voice, and we can generate more elite discourses that describe Islam out there? Because we were having this discussion with you, and we talked about how Islam or Islamophobia is a major threat that we now face as of the modern 21st
You know,
century.
in fact, Kazakhstan from the very beginning was in favor of developing regional cooperation.
Yes.
Unfortunately, in 90s, not many countries supported this idea.
Okay.
But now I'm happy to say that, for example, in Central Asia, we face a great positive developments. On annual basis, leaders of Central Asian countries, they are meeting, they are discussing issues, problems, challenges that we need to address collectively.
True.
And I do believe that the main I would say the main focus for our countries today is to develop regional connectivity.
True.
even when it comes to cooperation between Kazakhstan and Pakistan, we are also in favor of regional connectivity. And why? Because if we want to connect our two countries, we have to cross at least two countries in the region, be it Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, or so on and so forth. So it means that connectivity, regional connectivity, as many experts say today, regional connectivity is the name of the game.
Exactly.
So this is why, as soon as we develop this regional connectivity, our people will be able to communicate, more,
travel, do
often.
more work, there's more trade,
developing
there's more
collaboration.
education.
Yes, exactly. This is what we need. And moreover, for example, 2 years ago, your government adopted a strategy called Central Asia Vision.
Yes.
And one of the main goals is to develop people-to-people ties.
That's true.
People-to-people contacts is a backbone of any cooperation between any countries in the world.
True.
But when it comes to our region, I must say that, as you rightly mentioned, there are so many things that unite us.
That's true.
Our culture, our religion, our
food.
history, our
Tradition.
food,
Yes.
our languages.
Yes, yes.
When I say biyaz, dasarkhan, chaykhana, qagaz, qalam, so on and so forth, these words are common to us.
Insan,
True.
So
yes.
this is why we should be focused on developing, I would even say not developing, but reviving
True.
those relations that we used to enjoy in the past.
And thank you so much, Your
Thank you so
Excellency, for
much.
kind of mentioning that, because obviously every country really needs to do their homework first and then move on towards this regional connectivity. Because imagine right after the World War II, where Europe actually decided that, okay, we're going to make sure that there's going to be more connectivity amongst people.
Yes.
And imagine where that region is as of today. So imagine that it was because of the fact that they were able to travel, amongst each other. They
Yes.
were able to study,
Yes.
they were able to work,
Yeah.
and which is why, alhamdulillah, now, they are,
Enmity is gone, yes.
obviously they are
Yes.
there. But very quickly, towards the end, Your Excellency, first of all, we highly appreciate it for you to take out time. And
Thank
finally, alhamdulillah, Pakistan, Kazakhstan will have direct flights.
Yeah.
That's the best part. But very
Alhamdulillah.
quickly, there have been 35 memorandum of understandings which have been signed in between Pakistani government and the government of
Yes.
Kazakhstan, and a few of them have been implemented. Can you please shed light on a few of them? What were those memorandums of understandings about? In which fields, what sector?
So we signed MOUs in the field of education, science and technology, financial sector,
Wonderful.
then in agriculture. This year we are planning to sign the transit trade agreement, agreement on developing cooperation between our customs administrations.
Wonderful.
So, in fact, we have been able to establish a very effective legal framework. What we need to do now, we need to implement those
True.
agreements, those MOUs that we signed during these 3 decades. But it seems to me, as soon as we develop our connectivity, the sky's the limit. I always say, to my my friends from the business community, that for me, B2B, it is not only business to business, it is also billions to billions and brothers to brothers. So this is approach that we have to develop. And 1 billion is a must, for sure.
Exactly. And thank you so much, sir,
Thank you
for
so
being
much
over
for
here
coming
on
here.
our morning show.
Thank you
you've
for
given
having
that
me.
time. So obviously, certainly, I cannot let you go without you sharing your experience of being in Pakistan and then on our show. Please, go ahead.
It's a beautiful country. 1 month ago, I visited Multan, Bahawalpur.
Yes.
It is something, fantastic cities. So this is why we are also pay very special attention to developing our cooperation in tourism.
True.
And in August, we are going to organize a forum dedicated to our cooperation in tourism, inviting tour operators from Pakistan to visit Kazakhstan,
Wonderful.
to explore what we have. And then we want to invite our tour operators to visit your beautiful country. So it seems to me that, again, tourism is another great area for developing our cooperation.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much,
Wonderful.
Your
Thank you so
Excellency.
much.
Thank you so much for
Yerzhan
having me.
Kistafin, ladies and gentlemen, we were in conversation with him to speak about bilateral relations in between Kazakhstan and Pakistan, and obviously things look very positive from here
That's true.
onwards. And if you want to travel to Kazakhstan, the best part is that you have a direct flight from Lahore leaving on this Saturday, 8th of
8th
July.
of July.
Please make sure that you book your tickets. Thank you so much, Your
Thank you
Excellency,
so
once
much.
again. For everybody who's out there, we're heading out towards a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with something extraordinary to speak about. Good morning.